All right. All right, I think we're recording now. Yeah, so hi everybody. Welcome to the November 20th MakerDAO community call. My name is David. I'm the core community lead here, and I am hosting these calls every week on Tuesday. And we basically go over everything from technical milestones, notable events, some highlights from the community. We have a small section for basically community discussion, freeform questions. And every once in a while, we get a special guest to demo something for us. This week, I tried to get the guys from Gilded on, but they will not be joining us. They will be here next week. So if you want to get a demo of the stuff that they're building, definitely join us next week. But this week, there's been a lot of really interesting stuff that's been happening. So there's a couple of partnerships. MakerDAO partnered with Ripio to bring DAI to South America via a fiat on an off ramp. That's exciting, and maybe Mariana can talk a little bit to that if he wants. I know that Nadia
Sure,
couldn't make it here.
sure. For those who don't know, Ripio here is like the first exchange in Argentina and South America that started to provide Bitcoin. At that moment was 2013, and they were developing a lot of like the infrastructure side for cryptocurrencies here in South America. They have now operations in Brazil, Colombia, well, Argentina. They open an office in Mexico too. And the first steps of this partnership will be to provide on ramp and off ramp fiat to in Argentina and Brazil. And very soon we will have that in Mexico too and Colombia. So it's like a extremely good news for us. It's a very good partner that we have in South America, and we don't have to forget that we also have in Argentina Buenbit, another on ramp of ramp. We have also
What is
Orion
it? What's the
X,
name of that one?
Buenbit.
Can you type that into the chat because I didn't know about that one.
Sure, Buenbit.
And that's
That's
already they already work with DAI
yeah,
and they're already around.
yes, they are already in Argentina and Peru. And we also have Orion X that is offering same pairs in Chile and Mexico, providing on ramp and off ramp in Chilean pesos. So that's
Can
good.
you throw that into the chat as well? Because I want to add it into our repo. So anybody that's present here that is curious what I mean when I say repo, me, Rich, and another one of the community members, Scott, we recently put out this really, really large GitHub repo filled with resources, and I will link it in the chat in a little while, but definitely feel free to go over there. We try to have as much stuff on there as possible. So anytime I hear of a fiat on an off ramp that I don't know of, I want to add it on there. So yeah. All right, that's really cool. Awesome. Thank
Cool.
you. Thank you for that little recap. All right. So besides that, there is another partnership. Thank you, Rich. Rich posted it in the chat. So there's another partnership that was just announced. I think it was today or yesterday. It was a partnership with OpenSea. And OpenSea is a marketplace for crypto NFTs, and NFT is a non-fungible token. So it's everything from like crypto kitties to digital art and the like. It's really, really, it's a nice platform. I checked it out for a little bit. I didn't have too much time to like dig in, but it's really cool that they're integrating DAI. They're also integrating, I think, GUSD and some other stablecoin. Uh, and that makes sense, because people need stability for sort of commercial like consumer use cases, and it's really exciting to see more and more partnerships take advantage of DAI.
Yeah,
Uh,
NFTs are going to be huge, and that's an amazing market. But just to be clear, David, I'm not entirely sure it is a partnership or not. I haven't heard anything from the official pipeline. I think that they just did it on their own,
oh,
possibly.
cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, it's a partnership in a sense.
Yeah, which is even better. So
Yeah, even better. The less work we have to do, the happier we are. We already have so much. But anyway, yeah. So as for partnerships, that's pretty much it for this week. We hit a really, really cool milestone, which we've already sort of surpassed by about 20%, where we hit the million ETH locked in the CDP engine smart contracts. And I think as of this morning, it was something floating above 1.2 million ETH, courtesy of this downward price movement. everybody is rushing to keep afloat. So anybody out there that's trying to keep afloat, we wish you well. We hope you're doing good to mitigate your risks. But anyway, yeah, a million ETH locked, 1% of the supply. That's a really, really big deal, and it's really freaking cool to see that number. It's an enormous number. Besides that, internally, we have a couple of new hires. We have Du, who's present at this meeting. He's our core community guy in Korea. He's going to be over there developing. What do you do? Do you want to come on video and talk a little bit about your role?
Oh, sure. So I work as a Korean representative. So I do both business development as well as community building in Korea. So in terms of community building, I manage, for example, it's a KakaoTalk group in Korea, and then we've been growing. Actually, I have certain goals that I set up with some other members of the team that I can share with you guys if you guys don't mind. So in terms of business development, it can be some other partnerships, potential partnerships, as well as potential listings. Actually, just today I talked to CryptoKitties, and I'm a very big fan of CryptoKitties as well as Rick Cats. They're really fluffy. I love them, and I think that we might have, some good, interesting partnership with them, as well as some other major projects. So some projects that I'm thinking of potentially having partnership will be, Ground X, which is part of Kakao's blockchain project, as well as HDoc, which is part of Hyundai's also blockchain project. So hopefully there will be a lot of interesting opportunities. Well, thank you.
Cool, very cool.
Actually, I have a question before you jump off, too. So I usually like to ask people, when people are from interesting geographies, I usually like to ask them just general questions about what's going on, because it's a big world and crypto is different all over. How do you feel from just a super high level? How do you feel that the general temperature is for crypto in Korea right now? Is it a healthy market? Is there instability, some uncertainty?
Well, so the Korean market, even last year and like just Korean market in general. I mean, it's not just for cryptocurrency. I mean, it's same thing for stocks as well. It's a very crazy market. And it's very aggressive. So even right now, the price is falling, but there are a lot of new exchanges as well as a lot of new ICOs coming up. Almost every day, and then some of them are scams. Some of them admit they're scams. So I think that there are many different sides to Korean market. There are definitely some professionals who are, blockchain experts, but there are also a lot of people who come in for kind of blind money. So they like, basically they are investing in ICO or they're investing in projects, but it's more of a, gambling. So I don't think that's healthy. The healthy side will be people who are very interested in from technical aspect, which is especially from the government as well as universities. They're doing a lot of research. In terms of actually the regulatory side from the government, the official side has been very iffy about it. They don't really understand crypto market that well, but they do want to regulate it. But they are worried that if they regulate it, there will be a huge backlash because the
that happened
interest
before,
in
right?
because
and there was some
because the interest and investment in cryptocurrency is pretty high. So they're worried that if they try to regulate it, there'll be a huge backlash. There'll be a huge fall. But actually, on the side, this is private. This is not yet public. But a lot of politicians are actually interested in cryptocurrency. So we've been actually teaching them how to make like Ethereum wallet and other stuff, and then they will come with some regulation by next year. So we'll see.
That's cool. Yeah, so that's the general sense that I got too. Is it's primary interest is generally speculatory.
It's very scary. Yeah.
So how do you feel the appetite is for stable coin? Is there much competition down there, or do you think that there's enough of an interest right now, or is this going to be part of your challenge to increase that?
So one of the interesting is that stablecoin itself is not really popular among investors per se, because investors they usually like. I mean, so I have no offense against a project called Tron, but they like project like that where the market is very aggressive. They feel like it's gonna go to moon. They believe that MakerDAO or this kind of more research focused project is, I guess, in their mind a little boring. But at the same time, a lot of research as well as projects, they're very interested in more of this stablecoin. So I talked to several projects, and what they realized is that they do need to have some elements of stablecoin if they have some kind of market or whenever they have a DApp. So for, I guess, professional side, there's a huge demand for it. In terms of investor side, it's harder.
But there should be. Is there an appetite in the business market? So for a settlement layer?
Yes, there's actually a huge appetite for business market. the only concern is they worry about whether DAI itself is fast enough. That's their concern. So right now, there's no really popular stable coin per se. They're having some attempts to make a popular Korean won pair. I mean, Korean won like cryptocurrency. Korean Exchange Upbeat tried it. I heard they failed. They might try it again. But there's a huge demand for it. It's just that nobody came up with it. So they have to use the dollar one, but they actually don't want to use the dollar one. It's just that there's no Korean one yet. So they have to create one.
That's interesting. I've never heard of,
yeah.
of an IOU token failing before. So Upbit didn't they pulled their operation? They stopped doing it?
Well, so from what I heard was that Upbit tried to do it, but that came around when also the government was doing a raid on each exchange. So they were worried about. So what they were worried about was that if they create a cryptocurrency that's pegged to Korean won, then they thought that it's gonna provoke the government because the government would say, well, are you using it as a currency, but it's not regulated. So they didn't want to, bring onto attention. So I heard that they scrapped it. So it didn't really quite fail. It's just that they scrapped it because of timing.
That's interesting.
So there have been some attempts to create Korean won pairing. I mean, so like this Korean won pegged cryptocurrency, but so far none has been really popular or worked. So right now they're bringing, but there's a huge demand for stablecoins, especially from exchanges. So the reason why a lot of exchanges do want those stablecoins is partly they want to be able to have a stablecoin so they can mine efficiently. So there are a lot of like trade to mine exchanges in Korea that's coming up, and some of them actually managed to be like one of the top 30 and others. But so for them, the more stable the coin is, the more efficient it is to mine, right? So if the price of Ethereum goes like back and forth 10%, it's not easy to like wash trade. But if it's something like, let's say, Tether, at least it's acceptable. But because there's a huge price difference between, let's say, $1 to $1, so it's not really stable. So they do want to have a very like want to actually a cryptocurrency that's pegged to one. So I would say overall there's a huge demand for stable cryptocurrency in terms of business. Now in terms of investment, that's kind of different. But actually, one of the interesting projects that gained a lot of attention recently is called TerraCoin. So TerraCoin is actually a stable coin that's pegged to SDR. It's not pegged to Korean won, but it's a Korean project. It's funded and it's created by a big Korean company called Timon. So Ticket Monster, and then it's related to many other big projects, including Kakao. So they're trying to push it. I'm not sure whether it'll be successful. I actually thought it will be successful, but at least it's a stable coin that's trying to gain attention.
That's fascinating. It's the first SDR pegged one that I'm aware of. Looking at CMC right now, it doesn't seem like, or it looks like they're off to a rocky start actually. So that's cool. There's lots of interesting things happening down there. What is the on-ramp, off-ramp situation like? Is it easy for people to get in and out of crypto in Korea?
So actually it was kind of interesting. So even before I interviewed for this position, there was actually no information regarding Maker's ecosystem as well as how to use it. So actually I was the one who created, so to briefly introduce myself in terms of like cryptocurrency. So before I joined here, I worked for a project called Gifto. I work as a researcher there. And then before that, I worked for a project called Proofsuite. And then my role there, part of it was create a stable cryptocurrency, which I had to learn from MakerDAO. So I had to learn how to use it. So I actually wrote some Korean guides on how to make it. So but there are just not many guides. So that's actually something that I need to tackle on as well. Is that there's not much information on MakerDAO, and that's partly also because it's not yet listed on major exchanges. So because a lot of Korean investors are not really interested in going for projects that are not yet listed on major exchanges because they don't know them simply, and there's just so many different coins. So once it's listed on major exchanges, then people get interested. They do more research. They also publish their own like analysis or like experience with it. So right now it's really hard to find any information regarding MakerDAO. It does appear in media sometimes, but it's only kind of briefly as like part of stablecoin, So that's one thing that I need to tackle as well. It's just having more information and more awareness about the project.
Yeah, that's been a challenge from us from the very beginning, and I think that's one that we're trying to address even in the Western market. Is that we're not very good at onboarding sometimes. So it's hard to get people from interested to engage with the system because it's easy for people to get confused, and it's easy for us to provide too much or not enough information. So it'll be interesting
Right.
to see how you tackle that problem.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. Yeah, Korea is quite a landscape. I'm excited to see what comes out of it in the next 5 years. It's going to be interesting how MakerDAO develops there, especially. Do you know if there's any projects that are trying to bring on sort of off-chain assets onto the blockchain in like Korea or in like those markets? Because I know in the U.S. there's a bunch of projects that are trying
Are you talking about in like?
tokenized real estate, tokenized like security.
Yeah, there are a lot of them, but most of them are scams.
Yeah,
So,
I hear you.
well, actually, I would say that most of ICOs in general are scams, and most of Korean ICOs are definitely scams. But yeah, there are having some attempts to. So actually, the Korean government rarely, it's very rare, but they actually decide to crack down on some asset-based cryptocurrencies.
Hmm.
So, for example, they recently cracked down on crypto fund,
Hmm.
and then despite the fact that it's based in Korea, but the fund management is actually done by a Chinese company. But in terms of like based on real estate or based on some other, you know, gold, things like that, that has happened. It never really gained attention because, as you know, one of the big concern with having a ICO based on asset is A, how do you really measure its worth and how do you really trust it, and
Right.
B, um, okay, so you let's say decide to have a real estate, you measure it, that's great. Now you need to create a marketplace. You need to create a marketplace, you need both supply and demand. You might get a supply of a lot of people who inflate their price, but how are you gonna find demand for it, right?
Yeah.
Also, why would they go through blockchain project when they can just go through some other traditional means, which already has more awareness as well as more kind of infrastructure done. So that's
Right.
not a concern. In terms of gold and others, I actually talked to some people, and their response was, "Why don't you just buy gold? You know, if you wanna, you know,
Yeah,
gold
that's
based."
interesting. The reason I ask is because I know that there's like, I know one of my favorite projects for like real estate is probably Harbor. They're doing like all the compliance stuff and creating sort of a liquid market for specific real estate offerings, and it's very niche and it's very sort of nascent, but there's projects like that, and then obviously like the bigger ones in terms of like tokenizing gold, like Digix, like they have their
Yeah, physics stuff. Right.
proof of what is it, Providence protocol, where like they take a photo and they have like a custodian, and they like sort of try to take the integrity process and bring it into sort of this decentralized, transparent form. And so that's why I was asking, because obviously like MakerDAO is eventually gonna try to get as many non-correlated assets in our collateral portfolio as possible. So I'm always curious about that kind of stuff in other parts of the world that I might not be aware of.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some attempts. It's just that in Korea, it's not as popular as some other. So I do think that in Korea, it's kind of similar to other areas as well. Right now, the most popular are platform coins and also
Mhm.
exchange coins, especially.
Yeah.
So
Right.
in terms of exchange coins, they actually pay dividend. It's similar to, I guess, these days it's kind of popular to trade and mine. So
Right.
those been
Right.
kind of popular.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, man. This is interesting stuff.
Yes.
So I'm gonna move on to some highlights from the community. So we had a couple of things happen. One of our more recent community members and somebody who's been commenting on MakerDAO a lot, David Hoffman, he posted a Medium article on the positive feedback loop that CDP users might create. I thought that was interesting. I had my disagreements with him in the argument, but definitely worth a read. Also, Ivan on Tech, who's a really big YouTuber, he has something like 200,000 subscribers or something. He did a video, and I've personally been a fan of his videos because he's very articulate and he explains things very well. And in his explanation on MakerDAO, he actually does a fantastic job of explaining what we are from like a technical standpoint and like the mechanism that allows DAI to keep its peg. So definitely check that out. I posted the links in the chat here. Besides that, there was a couple of other sort of partnerships, if you will. OpenLaw put out a Medium post that I saw Rich posted on Reddit, and they are talking about how on-chain sort of legal contracts will need something like a stablecoin, and that they're looking at DAI. I didn't really get to read too deeply into it. I kind of parsed the article, but I thought that was pretty cool, worth mentioning. And also, as I said earlier at the beginning of the call, Gilded opened up a beta, and their thread is on Reddit. Actually, let me grab that link as well. Yeah, they put up a nice post on Reddit inviting people to come test their project, because right now their full version is completely free, and eventually they're gonna sort of put a paywall on it and allow people to, you know, they're gonna turn into a software as a service business. But their project is pretty cool. They're gonna come on next week though, to demo it for us and stuff like that. And then besides that, we had our regular Thursday governance and risk meeting last week, and we discussed a bunch of stuff about the game theory of voting in MakerDAO, which involves things like vote buying, representation, the value of the vote, how proposals work, why we don't like quorums, or why we might not like quorums, right? And basically a bit about what continuous approval voting is and how that mechanism works in MakerDAO. So definitely, if you're interested in the governance aspect of our project, I highly suggest you check out the Thursday governance and risk meetings. We have the audio versions on SoundCloud, and we also have the YouTube recordings on YouTube. I'll also post up a link to those in a little bit, because I don't have it in front of me right now. But yeah, so definitely invite anybody to come to those. Now that pretty much sums up all the official updates I wanted to give you guys and all of the highlights from the community. Besides that, I'm going to open it up to sort of free form questions from the community. I know me and Mariano had a burning question that we prepared, which is what everybody's eyes were sort of glued on over the last day, which was CDP 3228. This poor guy had like 7 million DAI outstanding, and he was rushing to not get bitten. But last night he got bitten, and that was 910,000 DAI worth of penalty that got paid out to the system. So that was pretty cool. It was cool to see the system handle that, because all of the collateral essentially got sold off in less than an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it was as if, and I remained well above 200%. I think it stayed above even 240% the entire time. It's really, really fantastic and fascinating to watch that happen. And actually, so you know what? Maybe I can talk about it a little bit. The whole thing is that 7 million DAI compared to like a 75 million DAI's total circulation. That's like 9% of the supply, right? Like that's a pretty big chunk of DAI that was en route to getting liquidated, and it's fascinating that it did. And it actually happened something like that in September. So on September 5th, the DAI supply was at around 49 million, and it dropped down to 41 million because about 9% of the supply was removed when Ether dropped from that 250 to 200 level. And we saw almost that same move, like that 9% of the supply just wiped. And again, the system performed like a champ.
Do we know what is the largest CDP right now?
I think that was the largest CDP, but I could take a look. I mean, it's no longer the largest CDP, but I could take a look right now. Yeah, so if anybody has any comments, questions, feel free to bring them up. I'm gonna look up the largest CDP for now in terms of that. So
I
the
don't really have a
largest.
question, but one of the interesting things is that I think for me, is that we're beginning to see, we're beginning to aggregate enough data to sort of get a sense of what user behavior is with the system. Where that's been sort of an open question mark for me is, well, what are people doing with the contracts, and what are they thinking, and why do they do it? I guess is my biggest question.
That's what I ask myself every day.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the interplay between. I think it essentially comes down to bears and bulls. You're watching them compete with each other. So you can see people. The price of Ethereum goes down. You can see people trying to get out of the system, trying to top up their collateral, trying to pay down their debt, and you can see other people that the only conceivable rationale for their behavior is that they think that we've hit bottom, and they're drawing out tremendous amounts. So I guess if you take into consideration that there's this unknown of like what price did they get in at, I guess it's not really unknown. Well, we know when they got what price they got in at with the CDP system, but not when they actually bought their collateral. So there's some questions there. And I think that if I had to guess, a lot of the people that are drawing large amounts of DAI now are either institutional or they got in significantly before last January. So probably when Ethereum was already pre $100, or they're under the assumption that we've actually hit bottom. So you can kind of see these reactions to there's some stability. ETH hasn't gone down, so people are starting to draw again.
Yeah.
One of my assumptions was, maybe this was naive, but I thought that over time we begin to see the wisdom of the crowd here. So this is sort of like this very highly visible health test for where potentially sophisticated investors or smart people think that Ethereum is going. And it's interesting to see that there is no clear consensus sometimes. That I think that one of the numbers I looked at recently from MakerDAO was the total transaction over a 24-hour period was 88 million DAI transacted back and forth, which is a staggering amount considering that our debt ceiling is 100 million DAI. So people are, and that didn't come out of the system. So that was like traffic inside and outside of the system as well. So there's this competition between bears and bulls happening. There's no clear consensus about it. There's no wisdom of the crowd here, which is something that I've always been, slightly cynical about that entire term. But I thought perhaps there would be a trend that we could all sort of agree on, but it's not happening yet.
The trend I see amongst my friends is, why did I open a CDP? Why?
That's the other thing that I'm trying to figure out too, is whether how much of the activity are people sort of just hold or die kind of mentality, and how much are people thinking that we're about to turn around? It's hard to know.
A guy in Colombia told me that he opens a CDP because for he a CDP is like a wallet, in terms that he needs some money, some DAI, he was just like download the DAI from the wallet, right? It's just for him, it's exactly the same to have it on a ledger than to have it on a CDP. The only downside that to have it on a ledger is that he has to get some DAI, he needs to go to an exchange or go to a decentralized exchange. But in that way, having a CDP, they just send the money.
Yeah, there's a lot of CDPs that, like, if you look at on Maker Tools, if you look at the liquidations chart, you could see the capital at risk at what liquidation price, and there's an enormous amount of capital that begins to be at risk below like 75, like $72. And like I know that there's a lot of CDPs in the system that have like really, really, really safe liquidation prices, and I'm sure many of them are people that are doing just that are in it for the long haul. They're like, you know what, I need like $1,000 or $2,000 or $250 to just transact with in liquid or for whatever reason, and they use it like that. And then there's like the top of the top of the risk spectrum type of people, like CDP 3228, who's like, you know what, I think the bottom is in, and then we take another leg down, and he scrambles, gets bitten, and he resets.
So as Rich said, probably we can take new CDPs as a wisdom of the crowd for a market button or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point that you raised, though, Mariano, as well, is that we need to take into account what the actual use cases are, because there's a significant population of the crypto world that this is sort of like a really, well, recently an enormously expensive hobby, but there's also a demographic in the world that uses crypto for real purchasing power and for real liquidity for day-to-day activity. So it's important to take that into account as well.
Yeah, and in case anybody's wondering about the largest CDP, that is CDP number 3088, and it has a staggering 6.2 million DAI debt with 121,000 Ether locked in. So his or her liquidation price is $74. And they, over the last day, have locked an additional 30,000 Ether in there. So
cool.
Yeah, so obviously playing it safe, which is nice to see. Yeah, it seems like most of the big CDPs right now are keeping a comfortable margin, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
There's nothing risky in there right now.
Yeah. So yeah, besides that, I mean, I don't really have much else. I went through my entire agenda. If you guys have any like burning questions, anything you guys want to discuss, feel free to open it up. Otherwise, I think we could end.
Well, we could probably hear. I'm sure there's lots of interesting things happening in the community management world. So, Mariano or Lenka, do you guys, Jess, do you
Oh
guys
yeah,
have
that's
anything
right.
on the go?
Totally forgot to ask about that.
No, it's okay. Yes, we are preparing a keynote speaker for La VidConf in Chile next December. It will be like, I guess it's the first time that people from Ethereum are invited to speak in this conference that it's been it's been made since 2013, but it always was like more focused on Bitcoin, right? But this year they open up to Ethereum projects and other cryptos and other blockchains also. What else do I have? Well, we've been in Mexico past week with Nadia. We've been at the FinTech conference. We've been in a discussion panel talking about new financial services blockchain, and we will have um, discussion with the people from Ripio and Samsung Pay, and it was really good. People in Mexico are um, really interested in stable coins, right? Uh,
Did I see a picture of
and
you on stage at one point, Mariano? Or do we get to see a
yeah,
video of this?
I
I
don't know if
posted. I
there's
posted
a
a
video.
posted a meme of Mariana.
I want to see it.
I don't know, but it was really cool. It was really cool because one of the things that I like the most is that people from, let's say, legacy financial institutions are very aware of cryptocurrencies right now, at least in Mexico, and that I think it's a pretty nice thing, right?
It's cool. Well, while we're still in Latin America, Nadia, I know that you're not on camera right now, so I don't want to ambush you, but it's always nice to see you in these meetings, and you always have a lot going on. So, is there anything that you're allowed to tell us about right now, or is everything still secret?
Hey everyone.
Hey,
I was a little bit late into the meeting, but I guess Mariano already told you about the Ripio. Okay, well, Ripio is huge for us. No, one of the main things that Ripio has is that you don't need to have a bank account to buy crypto. You can go to a merchant and pay with cash, and these merchants has a offline payment system that is called Rapipago. Is like a yes, is that it's an offline payment system. So you go with cash, and they accept your cash, and they put your cash inside your wallet in Ripio. So
oh,
you
that's
will
amazing.
have,
I had no idea that that was the case. So each individual store that supports Ripio is basically an off ramp now. Is that the idea?
yes, exactly, and you can do it in that way, or you can use another tool that we have here in Argentina and also in Brazil that is called Mercado Pago. Mercado Pago is like a spin-off of Mercado Libre. Mercado Libre is one of the biggest technology companies in Latin America. It's compared to Amazon. Actually, it's like an online store, and they have their own gateway of payments that it's called Mercado Pago. Actually, they are giving to all the merchants like like this Square product that you use in the US, so you can pay for what you want. And you
Okay, well, I'm thinking. I guess now I'm catching up because I knew that it was Ripio was an off ramp, and I knew that was good. But now I see why everybody's so excited. This is pretty amazing. So it's not just one off ramp tied to a bank. It's a lot of market penetration here. Do we have any idea how many stores actually support these kind of devices right now?
I think Rapid Pago is it's in the whole country, but no, I don't know how many merchants offer
So
this.
lots, I guess, right?
But it's a lot. It's like a huge penetration, and that is why we wanted to have like a huge PR campaign, because we are convinced that the way to be massive in Latin America is using that that methods. It's like the market is waiting for a solution like us. So we are communicating this, and also I understand that Mariano and Coulter and Mike are thinking about how to communicate what we are, like another option of the financial system to the Latin American people. We want to work with our partners in order to unify that message. The first one in that order is Ripio, who is huge in Latin America, and with them we are also thinking how we can help to Venezuela, because all this penetration that they have in the market, we think they are a good partner to get liquidity in those markets. So it's very exciting for us, for Mariano and for me, to close this kind of relationships, because we are like a step closer to get massive here. So it's important.
That's really exciting. I have to do some more research. So just so I can wrap my head around this. So you're saying that, like, if they go to a store, the store supports Ripio, and they have their phone, they can actually buy and sell crypto at the counter in the store? Or, wow, that's you said it, but I'm having trouble believing it. This is crazy. That's really
Yes,
cool.
you can do it. You have to come here, Rich, and try it by yourself.
I think I have to now. That's amazing.
Nadia, can you tell me more about, like, or tell us more about, like, how the government deals with projects like that from, like, a regulatory perspective? Is it like troublesome, or is this like fully like legit and like people are encouraged to use it? Like, what's the general temperature?
It's fully legit. Actually, if you want to have a partnership with this solution that I'm telling you, this offline payment system, you have to be legit, because that are inside the financial system here in Argentina. But the crypto here is not illegal. It doesn't have a real regulation. So you can, if you do the stuff well, you can work like a legit company. And that is why companies like Ripio exist. That is why companies like Mercado Pago, the other alternative to the payment system, exist. Is because it's legal. I mean, here in Argentina, the government wants to generate a lot of innovation. So you can do whatever you want. It's not illegal. You can create new products, and that's what we are seeing here. Actually, in all Latin America, right, Mariano? That's my sensation, that you see a lot of innovation, because the government, it's like they don't like it, but you can try, and they, after you try.
Yeah, they are not forbidden at all. They are not regulated. Let's say that, for example, yes, you can try, or you can trade whatever you want in a financial institution, whatever crypto you want in a financial institution. That's not the case, but there is there is not forbidden at all. You can buy, you can sell, as if it was any other instrument that you are transacting.
Exactly. And well, there's something here that if something is forbidden, we are always looking for a way to like look another solution. So this is funny, because you can find a lot of creativity and how we are solving stuff. For example, in Colombia, another partnership we closed is Panda Exchange. In Colombia, it's not forbidden. Crypto are not legal, not illegal. It's like they don't have a regulation, but the financial system is so strong that they block the accounts to the exchanges. So you can't buy with fiat crypto, because you don't have a way to put your money inside the exchange. So these guys of Panda created these devices. There are like a device that they want to put in the point of sale of a merchant, and you go with cash and you buy your crypto, and you can do it using that device. So they are always thinking a way to do what they want to do, to do more business. But if the government doesn't permit it, because one way they can find like how like another way to do it. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, thanks. That's cool. Yeah, I remember like hearing about Venezuela's like oil-backed crypto and thinking, oh, the government's probably gonna try to be super super strict about like regulating crypto and maybe like trying not to let people have sort of competition against their own interests with that. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really following it too closely. That's why I asked. Yeah, that's Venezuela.
Yes, that's Venezuela. Well, it's another market we want to
Yeah.
go into it. And we are hearing different proposals of different projects. And I invite the community to think about solutions to Venezuela. We are hearing a lot, and we think it's like a good way to help the community.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we know people in Venezuela, like how, like what the situation on the ground there is, like generally speaking, just from the crypto space side?
Yes, totally. Yes, yes. We have a DAI fan friend who is creating a wallet, but thinking this wallet oriented to the Venezuelan people and their circumstances, and how a Venezuelan migrant who goes to a new country and doesn't have a new cell phone and maybe doesn't own his own computer can send money to their family. And there are a lot of Venezuelan people around the world that are thinking about solutions like this. And we also, with this project, the Colombian project I told you, Panda Exchange, they have a spin-off company who's called the C Coins, and they want to create a P2P marketplace with crypto, and it's oriented to Venezuelan people, where you can sell food, for example. And that's the case of Venezuela. They are selling their food because it's very difficult for them to get basic needs. So they sell food for crypto, and they're creating markets to help to sell that kind of stuff. That's
Yeah.
sad, but well,
Sad, but that's the beauty of decentralized finance, right? That's the beauty
exactly.
Right.
of what we're trying to do. So all right, so you guys, so Lenka, do you want to add to like stuff about the real life events that are happening?
In Venezuela or in Latin
No, no,
America
like
in general.
I think well, Lenka's in Europe, right? She's
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So more of the about the real life events over there on her side.
Yes, thanks so much, Nadia, for the updates. It sounds really exciting. For the past week, what has happened? Okay, last week, last Tuesday in the evening, we have been behind the Warsaw meetup in Poland with it and the Depi Hour, so I told you about that already. What else has happened? Our head of product, Søren, he traveled a bit from Copenhagen to Helsingborg, Sweden, where he was speaking about Maker at the Öresund, which is region that is comprising of Copenhagen and also a part of Sweden, over the sea on the other side, on the other. Sorry, a lot of notifications are popping up. Yes, he was talking about financial inclusion and how Maker fits in. This was a small audience, but I think the topic was really interesting, and he got some really nice feedback on that. What we have been up to last week, and that was the biggest event, was Nordic Blockchain Conference that took entire day on Friday, and we had 3 appearances. We had Rune giving a keynote where he actually introduced the concept, and he introduced it. The title was like blockchain from the driver's seat, so actually being presented by someone who is actually actively involved in blockchain. And there we had some really cool examples how actually Maker contributes to the promise of blockchain. Then
Are there recordings from the Nordic Blockchain Conference?
I believe there are. We just have to wait for them a little bit. So I'll be happy to share those once they're live. Yes, I think there'll be like a Making Maker post soon where we have just some high-level information. But when there's recordings, I'll be happy to share those URLs. Besides this, Rune participated in panel discussing financial trust together with. This is kind of maybe not ringing many bells here, but Lars Sayer, he is a founder of one of the most advanced banks and also like trading platform, Saxo Bank. He started his own project, and then we had another stablecoin project in a panel, and we had Lasse, who has started one of the earliest exchanges or trading platforms in Europe for Bitcoin and crypto, discussing financial trust and also focusing a lot about stablecoins. And then I was really happy that Jacek, who is our legal counsel, could actually join us in Copenhagen and could speak about the entire topic of decentralization and from the legal perspective. So advancement in regulations, some insights into how does he see the whole industry transform over the next couple of years, and how should we approach the regulation in the space. So that was really cool day for Maker, and we met a lot of people. To me, that is local to Copenhagen. I met a lot of these before, but a lot of these people actually are coming from the region, but are actually active in other countries, for instance, in Switzerland, etc. So it's been still insightful. And yes, that was the finishing of our live events here in Europe. I believe that we have one event coming, and that is Jessica's forte right now.
Yeah, how's it going, you guys? Yeah, an event that's actually happening in the UK, so not really Europe anymore, but it's across English universities, and it is a 12-week hackathon, which is an interesting format. It gives people quite a bit of time to work on whatever cool stuff that they're getting going. And the kickoff of the events are happening at Cambridge, Oxford, and a venue in London on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. So if any of you guys are somehow affiliated with a UK university, then maybe you would be interested in participating and figuring out some ways to work on something. Our challenges are pretty open-ended. One of the challenges that I was very interested in getting created has to do with DAOs and just helping get some people that maybe are a little bit less technical interested in doing some research for us on how to protect DAOs from malicious actors. So I'd love to hear any thoughts you guys have on that, or maybe some of you are interested in participating.
What kind of people, like the 12-week hackathon, how was that organized? Like, are there a lot of people that sign up front, or like is it like
Yeah,
a
it's an awesome
thing?
question.
Is there like a format? Like, what? Tell me more about it. I'm curious.
Right, definitely. So at this point, no one would be signed up. It hasn't officially kicked off in the sense that people apply to sort of hack or work on a challenge. They'd have to be somehow affiliated with a university in the UK, but the applications don't open for them to apply towards one of the bounties that we've initiated, or another partner has initiated, for instance, Kyber or Gnosis, until after these kind of like meet and greet events where they learn a little bit more generally about what's happening and who the partners are, or the people that are, or the projects that are offering sponsorships.
Nice. Is there a reward for the hackathon?
Yeah. So there's 2K for each bounty.
Nice.
That could be one based on who we choose. So you'll be involved in that, David, in March when the 12 weeks culminates. But then there's also some bigger prizes for like the overall hackathon, so to speak, which could still very much be awarded to a person that worked on a project for us and maybe in accordance to one of our projects. And those awards are pretty big. The top prize is 20K.
Nice. Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah.
If only I could hack.
Well, you can. Yeah.
I kid. All right, cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to mention one more thing, and this is because this was Jocelyn's accomplishment, but we had our BD Gustav and Ashley from US to travel to Singapore. So there was I think it's the largest fintech festival in the world or event. It's Singapore Fintech Festival, and they said they had really like exhausting agenda, but really very good, and met a lot of interesting potential leads for partnerships and spreading adoption of DAO Maker, and left with really good impressions. So I don't have so much in detail to say about it, but I want to give them credit for doing really great job there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lenka.
Yeah, definitely. I heard that they were doing something in Singapore and that they're actually really warm and receptive towards MakerDAO and our project.
Yeah, and to follow up with that, Jocelyn is leading efforts on ETH Singapore, which is another big ETH Global hackathon that's occurring on December 7th. And there'll be a bit of a tour sort of leading up to that, in which Chow and Jocelyn and Sean, one of our awesome developers, will be presenting at a few different venues in China and then in Singapore prior to that. So that'll be cool and more community building to happen.
Very cool. Very cool. Good updates, guys. That's I always manage to forget about the real life events. Those are supposed to happen in the beginning of the meeting, not at the end. But yeah. Anyway, glad you guys could fill us in and let us know what's going on around the world. It's really cool to see us spreading. It's awesome. I get very happy when I think about it. But anyway, yeah. So I think we're about done. Unless anybody has any questions or things that I might have forgotten, if they want to bring up anything.
Well, actually, I do have one update, if you don't mind.
Go for it, dude.
Yes. So I have a conference speaking slots on December 8th. I'll be speaking at Sungbuhan University, which is one of the top 5 universities in Korea. They want me to talk about, so even before I joined MakerDAO, they wanted me to give a lecture on token economics. So I'll be presenting both MakerDAO and token economics. So I'll be basically surrounded by a bunch of college students who are going to grill me with questions. So wish me good luck.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Good luck. You're gonna do great.
Yeah. It fits because you used to be a researcher, right? So what's your background in terms of like your previous jobs and like your education? Like what's your
Oh,
specialty?
sure. Yeah, sure. So in terms of my education, so for college, I studied economics and international affairs at the George Washington University. And then I studied international economics and environment at Johns Hopkins University. And then I served as a military intelligence officer. So before that, I used to work for economics think tanks.
Mhm.
So after I finished military intelligence officer, I went to blockchain field. I worked as a researcher there. And I focus on both researching about projects as well as cryptocurrency, as well as the market, blockchain, and others. And then I went to Gifto, working as both community manager, BD, and also research at the same time. And now I'm doing everything.
Nice, man. Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a strong background. That's really, really awesome. I'm glad. I hope you have an awesome talk. When is
Thank
that?
you.
You said in a week from now?
Yeah, so it'll be on December 8th. I think I might bring a friend or two to the event so I don't get grilled all by myself.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Support from friends is important.
Yes, actually, and also the university was interesting. So university has a blockchain club, which is actually very intense. They do training every week. They do hackathon every month, and they're very knowledgeable about blockchain. So I thought it might be interesting if we decide to do form a partnership. where they can do a lot of research about us and others, because they're very knowledgeable about blockchain and how
Yeah.
smart contracts and others.
Hey, so if you want, so me and Rich have that repo, the Awesome MakerDAO repo. If you find that to be useful, because there's a lot of resources on there, and we've been talking about sort of expanding to have sections for other languages or resources of other languages. If you want, ping me on Rocket Chat and send me some stuff, and I could set up a sort of a Korean section or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be great. I actually saw some presentations. I was just not sure how up to date those presentations are. But if you can give me a presentation that's kind of recent, I can spend a few hours just like translating.
Yeah,
So
cool.
that works as well.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think that I'm probably gonna present at least a presentation in English on 8th, because I think that there will be some visitors not from Korea. So they will get mad at me if I just speak in Korean. So.
Generally speaking, do most Koreans know English, or like what's sort of the mix of people that know English? Because I know it's
I would say
taught as like a
most
secondary
Koreans
language.
try to speak English. I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of different. But I would say that they can speak basic, but they're not really fluent. But they can understand you
Got it.
if
All
you
right.
curse at them. So yeah.
All right, man. Dude, it was really nice having you. It's
Well,
already
thank you so
3
much.
a.m. for you, right?
Yes, it's time. Thank you so
Gotta
much.
go to sleep, man.
It's fine.
All right, thanks for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Definitely blessed us with your presence here.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, so we're coming up at 3 minutes to the top of the hour. Let me know if anybody has anything else, and otherwise, I'm gonna wrap it up. All right, I think that is a signal for us being done. Thank you guys for coming to this week's meeting. I look forward to next week's. Take care.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Thank you, guys.